Thank you for joining me for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. You know, with more and more business activity moving online, there are great opportunities for small businesses, but also great risks. This is doubly true for the customers they service. The Better Business Bureau has found that the susceptibility to fraud has increased by over 46% in 2020 alone. So joining me to discuss their findings is the BBB's Director of Media Relations, Jessie St. Cyr. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Clement.
So what sort of scams are you tracking?
We track all types of scams at BBB. In 2015, we launched our tool called BBB Scam Tracker, where consumers, business owners can report scams, either if they fell victim to a scam or if they noticed the scam and didn't lose money. And we track all types of scams going through from online scams, credit card scams, home renovation, fake invoices. So it's very vast.
So it sounds like you track both scams that are directed to consumers or customers and also scams, I think of fake invoices, for example, that could be to a small business as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, that's correct.
So has any of this become more prevalent over COVID? I'm just curious.
Yes, absolutely. All types of scams, I think, well, all types, not all types. We've noticed in our risk report this year in the top 10 of the riskiest scams that some scams did not make the top 10 this year, like travel, vacation, timeshare, obviously, because people were stuck at home all year. But other types of scams increased in 2020. This whole situation was a fertile ground, and I'm tired of saying this expression, but it's so true. It created a fertile ground for scammers and tried to get money from consumers and Canadian business owners as well.
So maybe give me and our viewers a couple of examples, the types of scams, you know, on the top 10 list, a couple of those that people should be wary of and look out for.
Do you mean consumers or business owners?
Let's take one of each.
Okay, perfect. So for consumers, the riskiest scam in 2020, and we were still receiving reports in 2021, is the advance fee loan. The pandemic effects just shows that advance fee loan is when you try to get a loan from another lender apart from your financial institution. So it shows the precarious financial situation that Canadians were in 2020 after losing their job or temporary closures. So an advance fee loan is when someone is trying to get a loan from a company, fraudulent company, and then they're going to ask you for an upfront fee before sending you the money. So in Canada, it's illegal to ask for any type of upfront fees before lending money to someone. So that's one red flag that consumers should be aware of. Okay. And if we talk about businesses, well, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is reporting this year that the riskiest fraud for business owners are spear phishing, is the spear phishing fraud, which is the most common but the most dangerous type of fraud that targets business owners. And the reason is that people lose a lot of money, obviously, but it's when scammers decide to do spear phishing on someone, they're going to choose one business in particular. It's really going to be targeted, and they're going to gather as much information as possible on that business and on the person in that business. So just this year, Canadian businesses lost and reported losing close to $25 million in fraud. So it's really important that business owners knows the red flags and know how to protect their business. And
really to educate their employees, because you're only as strong as your weakest link on these kinds of issues. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's really important that all your employees are aware of the type of frauds that are going on, and even preparing a plan and training your new employees on these types of scams and what to do if they notice that something is fishy. So that's a good way to protect yourself, absolutely.
We'll be back with the Better Business Bureau's Jessie St. Cyr after the break, talking about various forms of fraud, business fraud, consumer fraud, those kinds of things. Please stay with us for this interesting topic. We'll be right back. Jesse, I believe you've got something called a three-dimensional risk approach. Can you maybe take our viewers through that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. That's how we build our top 10 of the riskiest scams every year. It's kind of our unique algorithm. So the first thing we are gonna verify is the exposure. So how many people were exposed to a certain type of scam? So the numbers of reports we receive. And then we're gonna verify how many people that were exposed to the scams actually lost money. And then the third thing we're going to verify is what were the amounts of money that were lost regarding a certain type of scam. So that's how we classify our scams. So the more money, the more reports we get about a scam, the more people that report losing money, and the more the amount is important. That's how the type of scam is going to go up the list.
And I guess it means that it's forever changing, right? There are new scams that are developed every year.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've noticed that this year the types of scams that are part of the top 10 differs from last year. This year, like I mentioned earlier, is the first one is upfront the loans, upfront payment loans. The second one was obviously online purchase scams. We received more reports on online purchase scams, but the amounts of money lost were lower than the advance fee loan one. And the third one this year was home improvement. And honestly, how many people do you know actually did home renovations in 2020 where we're stuck at home and tired of seeing the same walls around us?
Right.
So a lot of people decided to invest in renovation. So sadly, some people came across fraudulent contractors or business owners that didn't deliver the product that was promised.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Can you talk a little bit about the demographics? And by that I mean, are there certain regions where businesses were hit hard, or there are age groups of consumers that are hit hard? Maybe go through that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. So what we've noticed this year is that the younger people, but to the seniors, were as much as risk as anybody else to falling victim to a certain types of scams. We always think that seniors are more vulnerable to falling victim to phone scams, but what we've noticed in this year's report is that they were as vulnerable as younger people to lose money when coming across an online type of scam. We've noticed that men were susceptible to lose more money than women, as we've seen in the numbers and reports, but women tend to lose a little bit more money when coming in contact with fraudulent online scams. And if you do online purchase, we warn people that social media platforms you're at higher risk of coming across fraudsters or fake websites or like less quality merchandise.
Right. So that's okay. So that's what that's all about is ordering a product online and not getting what you paid for, or not getting anything. I guess that's the worry, right?
Yes, exactly. We've noticed that so many fake websites were created during the pandemic. Fake websites either to purchase products, fake websites of businesses that are trying to offer employment. So employment scams like really got big this year as well. So yeah.
Now, in terms of avoidance, what's your best advice to our viewers?
The best advice is to always take your time. Don't do something under the impulse or emotion. And that's the same with business scams. If you come across an invoice, or somebody calls you and asks you to pay for an invoice that's past due, and you feel pressure, you just need to take your time. Legitimate people, they're going to give you the time to think, to verify, to make your research, and to make a good decision. So that would be one good thing to do, to always look, if you're shopping online per se, take the time to go and on third parties and read the comments, verify the name of the website you're shopping on, or the vendor on a third party as well. But just type fraud or scam beside to see what type of comments come up, to just make sure you're protected. But and trust your gut. A lot of people that reported fraud but didn't lose money this year reported that they had a feeling that
we're going to hold that thought.
Was...
We're going to take a brief break, but we'll be right back. And we're back with Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, with Jesse St. Cyr of the Better Business Bureau. I apologized I had to cut you off there. Please continue with your thought about the best advice to our viewers and consumers.
It's no problem. I tend to give really long explanations.
No, it's good.
So another thing it's to always trust your gut, like I was mentioning. A lot of people that reported scams but didn't fall victim to this type to the scam and didn't lose money reported to us that they had this feeling that something was fishy, something wasn't right, and so they took a little bit more time to do verification and didn't fall victim. So if something tells you that something's wrong, that's a good trick. And like everything else, if any offer seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Right. And that's good advice from our parents, and it's good advice that you're delivering there. I just want to get into the economic cost, and I think we just went over this very briefly at the beginning, but there's a huge cost to the Canadian economy and to businesses and to consumers. Just go into that a little bit detail.
Absolutely. So this year, the Canadians in general reported losing over $160 million to fraud, and businesses close to $25 million. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And we need to realize that about only 5% of scam victims and fraud victims actually report it. So this amount might be even bigger. So that's one thing we need to realize, is that it's all around us. Everybody's vulnerable to frauds, whether it's online or whether it's from someone we meet on the street or whether it's someone calling us or showing up at our door. So we need to be aware that it happens. It can happen to us. And the best way to protect everybody, every Canadian, is to educate and inform them, and that they go read about it, but they inform themselves as well, and to know what the red flags are and to know what to do to protect themselves.
I've got a question for you. Is the Better Business Bureau getting into any kind of cyber currency and blockchain currency issues? Because I just tell my audience that a friend of mine bought some Bitcoin a few weeks ago and then lost it all because he trusted an intermediary with his file, and boom, it was gone. So this seems to be another area of either organized or disorganized crime. Has that come across your desk at all?
Yes, well, we've the cyber money is part of the top 10 of the riskiest scam this year. I feel like a lot of people with the pandemic thought that it would be a good idea to invest in cryptocurrency. Yes, we have a lot of reports, and I invite you to visit the bbb.org/scam tracker. There's a roll down menu, and you can verify all the reports that were made about cryptocurrency. So it's always the same thing. It's either people are trying to buy from a fraudulent person, or trying to invest or to take out the money that they've invested prior to the pandemic. So there's a lot of fake websites that are created impersonating legitimate cryptocurrency websites. So one tip I'm going to give you, if you receive an email or if you come across anything related to cryptocurrency, verify the creation date of the website of the business or either the investment platform you are going to try to invest in or invest on. You're going to verify the website, the URL of the website of anybody you're trying to deal with on whois or whois.net or who.is. You just copy the web address in there, and it's going to show you the creation date of the website or the platform. If it's in the past few weeks, the past few months, if it was created during the pandemic, that's a major red flag that this is a scam. Like a legitimate broker or investor or company that's dealing with cryptocurrency that's legitimate is going to be established for more than a few months. So, but definitely ask some questions, because a lot of people are losing their investment, sadly.
Very good advice. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask a little bit, we've got about 40 seconds before the next break, but we'll start on this topic anyway. Do you see any future trends? Are there things that you're looking out for that you think are going to grow in popularity, unfortunately?
Well, the spear phishing has been growing in the past few years. Definitely businesses are targeted by that, so they need to be aware of it. They need to update and have a good cybersecurity. They need to back up their data as much as possible. But everything online related is definitely going to be big again in 2021.
We're going to come back with our guest, Jessie St. Cyr. Please stay with us as we go into our final statement. Thank you. And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, as always, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, here with Jessie St. Cyr. She is the Director of Media Relations for the Better Business Bureau as we talk about consumer and business fraud. Jessie, just wondering, do you advocate for any changes in governmental policy at all, or are there things that government should be doing more of?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, you know, as a local BBB, we prefer to inform and educate consumers and help small business owners. On a bigger scheme, the ones that are trying to make government changes are the International Association of Better Business Bureaus, IABBB. They're the ones who make the big studies and like really study what's happening in the United States, in Canada. They're the ones who make the recommendation. But in any types of scams, we would absolutely love to see some changes regarding frauds, for sure.
Is it a question of enforcement, or do we need new laws? Are you familiar with that issue at all?
I'm not. I wish I could give you an answer to that, but that's not my domain of expertise.
Sure. No, fair enough. What sorts of things do you hear from people who contact you? Is it, I guess I'm just wondering about the amount of surprise or the, even shame, I guess, because they've been, it's a terrible situation to be taken advantage of. So maybe the people side of the story a little bit.
Absolutely. So many people feel ashamed that they fell victim to scams, to any types of scams. And that breaks my heart, because I work with this every single day. I see the amounts of reports. I know that it's not John that lives around the block that is going to scam you necessarily. Usually it's big groups. They're really well organized, and anybody could fall victim to a scam. So people, yes, they feel foolish that they didn't see the signs, but the scams always adapt to every situation. And people really don't need to feel ashamed, and they need to report it. The more report we get, the more we can share it with other Canadians, so that they know what's going on and that they know how to avoid falling victim to scams.
Do you get a sense that organized crime is playing an increasing role, or maybe it's all organized crime? I don't know, but what's your sense of that?
I don't think it's all organized crime, but I think they are definitely playing a role in it. It's like I've mentioned, it's hundreds of millions of dollars of money. So absolutely, I'm sure that organized crimes, and we've heard about it, that organized crime is behind some types of scams. Just the identity theft portion of fraud. Like if people go and steal your information, they're going to sell this information on the dark web. So yes. And we've heard of stories that people with the organized crime were having many computers in their basement with information. And yes, I think there should be more investigation in regards to that, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, do you get a sense that it's a high enough priority with the RCMP, say, or other police services?
Well, I think they are doing the best as they can with the effectives that they have. But like I mentioned, if only 5% of people that are victims of fraud report it, the more people are going to report it, the more they're going to be able to put people on the topic and try to do something about it.
So that's really a tip as well, to if you do fall victim to this, you've got to report it. Is that right?
Absolutely. You've got to report it to, if you fall victim and you lose money, you need to report it to your local police. You need to report it to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, as they're linked to the RCMP. And you can also report it to our tool, bbb.org/scam tracker, because we're partnering with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So we work together as to inform consumers on how to avoid falling victim to scams.
Okay, we've got a couple of seconds left. Give the website again for the BBB one more time.
So bbb.org, and if you want to report a scam or verify what's going on in your area, bbb.org/scam tracker.
Jessie St-Cyr, thank you very much for joining us. A very informative show, and thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clement. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.